All right, YouTube, it looks like Trump has taken two steps towards probably his biggest campaign promise, which was attempting to bring about a two-state solution that would solve, hopefully finally, the crisis over between Israel and Palestine. A touchy issue, one that many presidents have applied themselves towards and totally failed. W failed. Obama, for all of his faults, was on this issue one of the more level-headed people who's been in office in living memory, which is something a lot of people won't give him credit for. That he was one of the only presidents sane enough to question the unerring resolve of the Israeli people towards eventually displacing Palestine entirely and declaring a single homogenous state. He withheld payments from them. He withheld arms shipments from them. And, well, he buckled towards the end of his presidency. And at the end of his presidency, made, I think, probably one of his biggest mistakes in trying to give a huge sum of money to the Palestinians as well, which didn't help, and it got frozen by Trump. He didn't let that go through. For all of those potential mistakes, Obama at least attempted to develop a better strategy for dealing with the situation. The United States is the hegemon of the world. We are singularly capable of solving the problem between Israel and Palestine. We have to broker it ourselves. If we leave the issue alone, the Israelis will eventually settle the entirety of the West Bank. They'll retake the Gaza Strip because there will be nothing to stop them from doing that. And why wouldn't they? They see it as part of their Holy Land. Left alone, the Palestinians will continue firing rockets into Israel. Hamas will continue to run roughshod over maybe more sane authorities in the region, and they'll keep fighting. And it's lucrative for both sides. The people running groups like Hamas are essentially little more than syndicated mobsters. They're a criminal cartel of sorts. They don't really care about the Palestinian people. Otherwise, they would have changed strategies long ago when it was clear their strategy was not working. The Israelis, likewise, are being led by essentially an imperialist movement. So we have to put pressure on them. But you can't simply put pressure on one side. The W's response to the whole issue was Israel great, Israel perfect, these Palestinians are all terrorists, we support Israel. Just don't kill too many Palestinian civilians or we look bad, basically. That was his form of restraint. Trump, meanwhile, has already, in the very infancy of his presidency, done two things that are important. First and foremost, he softballed Israel while making it clear that the United States did not support the concept of limitless settlement operations in the region, simply saying, in an innocuous manner, they're not helpful. Secondly, because he's been a chaotic individual, because people are still trying to figure out how to read his personality, and this article points that out in the words of Benjamin Netanyahu to his various ministers. Because of that, it causes a greater deal of respect to be shown towards the United States' brokered position in any of these negotiations. This is the case with Russia and Ukraine, too. Trump, unlike Obama, has stated a willingness to work with Russia, even as he hardlines them along their own border, allowing troops to be sent there, along with all of these anti-missile systems and so forth. And that's how you do it. You keep your enemy or your foe or your competitor or any state that you're trying to work with, you're trying to get some negotiation going, you keep them on their toes. Even an ally, you have to do the same with them. He has to do this over the future with Merkel, too. He's going to have to do it with Germany. He's going to have to do this in regards to the EU. It's not in the U.S. best interest for the EU to amalgamate further, as far as an economic bloc. It's also not in the best interest of our allies. If we want our allies to be strong so that they can continue to help us when we need their help, we have to try to dissolve the EU. It's necessary for world security. If the EU does not successfully devolve back into something that's more tenable long term, at the very least, or fracture altogether into blocks, if that doesn't happen, Europe will fall. Europe will become weaker and weaker and weaker. It will fall into decay. There won't be a sick man of Europe. All of Europe will be sick, essentially. On the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, he's already made inroads. He's gotten Benjamin Netanyahu himself to tell his ministers, we can't offend the Americans anymore. We can't put up too much opposition to Trump. We have to listen to what he says. When's the last time that a leader of Israel has done this? Has actually assembled their ministers and told them, yeah, we've got to let the Americans make headway here. It's never happened. They've never, always before, in public, if the president of the United States is still, they're sending them money, they're sending them weapons and so forth, saying, yeah, Israel's great, they'll softball us in public and say, yeah, the Americans, great ally of ours, great friends of ours, but then when it comes to the negotiating table, nothing is accomplished. With Palestine, it's similar. The United States reaches out under Obama, says, well, these settlements are unhelpful. We're going to withhold maybe some money to Israel and weapons and so forth. We're tired of this diplomatically. We're going to, at the UN, allow condemnation to go through and abstain from that. Did it actually help under Obama? In a pragmatic, in a physical sense, on the ground in Israel and Palestine, did it actually cause anything to be accomplished? No. But Trump has made it clear the United States will defend its allies, but at the same time it expects to get something out of them in defending them. This is the case with all of our military alliances right now, with NATO. Look at what he said regarding NATO. NATO's great, yeah, we're keeping NATO, but we're going to reform it and people are going to pull their weight. They're going to have to contribute more to NATO's defense fund. And that's a good idea. People who think that that means that we're withdrawing from it or letting Russia take over Europe are kidding themselves. The UK has nukes. France has nukes. The combined manpower and the military capabilities of the EU states, the European bloc, or even just Western Europe itself are more than a match for Russia in any sort of warfare scenario anyway, so I don't know what people are so fucking worried about. As for Israel and Palestine, though, Trump also did something else that's important. Very early on, he said, oh, we're moving the embassy to Jerusalem. We recognize completely Israel's supremacy in the region. They're our number one friend. Softballed them. And they went forth with some of their settlement plans. But then Trump rephrased it, and he said, oh, but the settlements aren't helpful, Mr. Netanyahu. And he's actually respecting that statement without coming out saying, oh, this Meshuggah Donald Trump, evil anti-Semite or something. Because, of course, it's impossible to do that because of what he's said and what he's done over time. And he sends his own son-in-law over to be the one helping to negotiate this two-state solution. Now, in the past, typically what happens is some random ambassador or the Secretary of State goes over, and U.S. Secretaries of State, especially people like John Kerry or Hillary Clinton, are not well received in many cases by foreign states. We've seen this in the Philippines, too. We send Kerry over there or whatever, he gets shit on by Duterte and his people. Rather, he sent a member of his own family to do the negotiating, or at least to make the opening overtures before Trump himself shows up to try to hammer something out. If ever there was a U.S. president that's actually capable of doing this, it's probably Trump. We haven't had a president in a long time whose main skill is in negotiating. Obama's main skill was in social organization, in a domestic sense. W's main skill was extracting oil and making money off of it. Herbert Walker, of course, as well. Bill Clinton's main skill was legalese. Ronald Reagan's main skill was acting, being charismatic. That was helpful. It's similar, I suppose, to having negotiation as your main skill set. But Donald Trump takes it to a different level. If somebody is going to get this accomplished at the diplomatic level, hammer it out and at least make it last for a while, at least try, it's Donald Trump. And if he manages to do this in a sane manner, whereby a two-state solution is created, or whereby there is continued non-aggression between the two sides, if he can do that, it's going to be difficult, it's going to take a long time, but if he can finally do that, it will be remembered as one of the greatest negotiated deals of U.S. history. And if he does that in his first term, he gets reelected, certainly. There would be no question in my mind. You'd need a scandal far bigger than Watergate to take him down if he has such a success under his belt. In fact, in a foreign policy sense, as far as securing the Middle East, actually getting something lasting hammered out there, it'd be great. It'd be wonderful. So he's going to try to do that, or at least he says that's his plan. He's got his son-in-law over there talking to people right now. He's making these statements. He's actually getting Netanyahu to pull back, I guess, on sort of the settlement expansion. That's a huge step. That really hasn't happened. The last time you have something similar is the withdrawal from the Gaza Strip, which was almost immediately violated by both sides. Now, Hamas begins firing rockets. Israel creates a no-go zone around the Gaza Strip and blockades it, essentially. So that wasn't lasting. That didn't work. What needs to happen is a permanent two-state solution in which the governing force of Palestine institutes social programs designed to get the people there to stop taking up arms, and in which Israel is guaranteed not to be settling Palestinian land, not to bomb Palestinian land, a non-aggression principle. In fact, it would be great to have a two-state solution that ends up with the two sides allied with one another, with governments that agree in spirit, so that any violation of that is coming just from militants. It's certainly not coming from any governing body, in which case at least the more moderate individuals on both sides, and the violence would be lower probably anyway, let's face it. The moderates on both sides would begin to, over time become more secular on both ends, less given over to thinking they need constant heightened alert and so forth. And it could work. Again, it'll be difficult. It'll require us to fund rebuilding in Palestine, whatever the borders of Palestine end up being. It would require us to pump investment there. We'd probably have to pump investment into Israel too at the same time. We'd be creating essentially two little miniaturized colonies of a sort, at least political colonies. It would probably involve eventually Israel signing the NPT, which would require us probably to pledge more military support in order to get them to adopt that. So it's complicated, but it can be done. It's not impossible. It's just we haven't had somebody who's actually particularly dedicated to trying to do this. And whether Trump makes this a major issue or puts it on the back burner and it never happens remains to be seen. He has to push the issue. Will he? Well, let's find out over the next, 4 years, I suppose. But it's good to at least keep it in mind that it's possible to do so. And if you can get Netanyahu to say something that's sane and isn't warmongering, that's a pretty good start. That's about all. Peace out.